Imagine a city where, for 1 week each year, the strict rules of society vanish. The senators wear plain clothes, the slaves mock their masters, gambling runs wild, and the streets erupt into music, feasting, and laughter. This was Saturnalia, one of the oldest, most beloved, and most chaotic festivals in ancient Rome. It began on December 17th, and over the centuries it grew longer, until by the imperial period, it lasted all the way to December 23rd. Its core theme was simple but revolutionary: turn the social order upside down. The first morning of Saturnalia began with an unusual sight: Rome's most powerful men, senators and magistrates, trading their elaborate status-marking togas for plain, simple tunics. Even candidates for office, who usually paraded their fine clothes to win votes, had to blend in. Every citizen, freedman, and slave was expected to wear a pileus, a simple leather cap, normally reserved for freed slaves. For 1 week, everyone was equal, or at least they pretended to be. This dramatic role reversal symbolized liberty, but it also served as a social pressure valve, allowing Roman society to release some tension before snapping back to its usual rigid hierarchy. Festivities began at the Temple of Saturn on Capitoline Hill. Saturn was a complex god, tied to agriculture, abundance, wealth, and liberation. For most of the year, the statue of Saturn stood with its feet bound in wool. Nobody knows exactly why. On the first day of Saturnalia, priests removed these wrappings, symbolically freeing the god. And here's a fun detail: the statue was hollow, filled with olive oil. Why? We don't know. Maybe it was symbolic, maybe it was just Roman weirdness. A sacrifice was performed before a huge crowd. Then, senators lifted a wooden statue of Saturn, made just for the festival, and carried it down to the Forum. The crowd followed, a rowdy, buzzing parade through the streets. At the Forum, the statue was placed on a reclining couch, like an honored guest at a banquet. Then came the feast. Massive tables groaning with food, goblets overflowing with wine, and all classes eating together. From here the entertainment began, and in true Saturnalia style, the games weren't quite normal. Gladiator fights could feature dwarfs or women, designed to surprise and amuse rather than inspire awe. On an ordinary night, Rome was pitch black and dangerous after dark. But during Saturnalia, the streets came alive with torches, candles, and singing. People roamed the city in groups, loudly greeting strangers with "Io, Saturnalia." Not everyone loved this. Some Romans complained about drunks shouting outside their windows at 2 a.m. But for most, this was the highlight: an all-night street party before heading to private celebrations. At these parties, a random guest, often a child or a slave, was chosen as Saturnalicius Princeps, the king of Saturnalia. This king could give any command, and everyone had to obey. Commands were silly, not serious. Sing a song, tell a joke, drink more wine. The idea wasn't rebellion, it was absurdity. Gambling, normally restricted, became completely legal. Even slaves could throw dice with their masters. And if you couldn't afford money, you could bet nuts, which were so popular they became a kind of Saturnalian currency. The most famous tradition was role reversal between masters and slaves. Some owners literally served food to their slaves. More often, they simply dined together as equals. Slaves could speak freely, even mock their masters without punishment. But this was temporary fun, not a permanent power shift. It was Rome's way of giving the oppressed a symbolic voice, but only for a week. One of the most beloved parts of Saturnalia was exchanging gifts. These were usually small: toys, candles, books, fine tableware, exotic food. The most popular of all was the sigillaria, a small wax or clay figurine. Special sigillaria markets popped up in December, and Romans were expected to give gifts to almost everyone they knew. By temporarily relaxing the hierarchy, Rome let the lower classes blow off steam without truly threatening the system. It was a fantasy week, a world turned upside down, but everyone knew it would end. The senators would put their togas back on, the slaves would remove their pileus, and Rome's rigid machine would start turning again. Like and subscribe for more.